So, like Oswaldo, I had an experience kind of like that this week. Maybe a lot of you have too. I started the week, I think it was Monday, and I do what I always do. After meditation, I take my dog out for a long walk. We sort of fast walk, slow run kind of thing. And it was a beautiful day. I think the sun was actually out that day, and I was feeling really good, and life was good, and everything was kind of, feels like everything is falling into my place. I'm just feeling so blessed. I was feeling so good, so blessed. You know, I've done a lot of work in my consciousness to get to that place, right? We do as we do. But again, feeling so blessed. And then as I always do, as I come back in from walking my dog, I pick up the paper in the driveway and bring it into the house, and I take off that blue plastic sheet and open the paper, and right there on the front page is an image of a family laying dead on a street. They had been hit by Russian mortar fire, and their bags, obviously they were pulling their bags. Their bags were laying down next to them. They were obviously, the picture, a good photojournalist can take a picture, tells a whole story, just that moment. They were obviously fleeing and didn't make it. And I just started weeping, like you. And I just felt like, how can this be happening? How can this be happening? And then I felt guilty about feeling so good about my life. How can I feel so good about my life when these people over here are, maybe they were having a good life too until a few weeks ago, and now their entire country is under siege. And so it really took me all day to work through this and to get to a place, a higher, understanding, a more spiritual understanding. And here's the thing. There are so many people talking about this in spiritual communities, all kinds of spiritual communities, in unity communities. Everybody's talking about how to think about and how to pray about this situation. Even unity ministers, in the unity ministers discussion group, there's a vibrant discussion about that, about how can we affirm omnipresent good in this situation. So maybe you've had that question too. And it's good to question. It is good. It's important that we question what we know and what we think we know, right? And of course, this question always comes up after every tragedy, right? It's like, where is God in this? After 9/11, after the atrocities committed by ISIS, after every social justice, every abuse, after every school shooting, after every natural disaster, after the pandemic, the question does come up. It's, it's typical. It's, it's understandable. But for some reason, this question is coming up a lot more now. And I don't know if it's because, here's this mostly Western sovereign nation that is being invaded like World War II style. It's just like, it's so shocking. Or maybe it's because war is being live streamed into our living rooms, it's up close and personal. But maybe it's because the collective consciousness is changing around this. We're getting to the point, like Oswaldo said, we just can't tolerate the idea of war anymore. We can't tolerate it. Maybe we're reaching this new, on the spiral dynamics, we're reaching a new level on the spiral. Maybe we're, rising into second-tier consciousness. And if you want to know more about spiral dynamics and that whole idea, Pat Venema is offering a class during our Spiritual Explorers Week at the end of March. really interesting stuff. So I think it's interesting. What I'm definitely seeing is there's this move away from this idea of just kind of glibly affirming all is well in that situation and then just living our lives blissfully ignorant. There's a move away from, oh, I can't look at this, it's too painful. It makes me upset. That's too simplistic. And it just eclipses the human capacity for compassion. Our human capacity for compassion. And in fact, it's essential that we connect with our compassion first. You know, that's humanity. Suffering is real. And when we connect, when we feel someone's suffering, it connects us with each other, and we're placed in the heart of humanity. It places us in the heart of humanity. And it is from that place of compassion that we extend a hand, that we offer support, that we find a way to help, we find a way to be of service. Now, there are no shortage of organizations that are set up right now in some real creative ways that I've been hearing to support the victims in Ukraine and the refugees. So find one or two and support them. And, you know, I thought it would be good for us, like in our fellowship after the service, when we're having coffee, to maybe share some ideas of like, who are you supporting? What organization are you supporting? What ideas have you heard about how to support these people? You know, we just get a conversation going and share some ideas. Someone once said that a kind gesture reaches a wound that only compassion can heal. So, after we've connected with our compassion, then first, you know, then we want to approach this from a deeper spiritual understanding. We are on a spiritual path. We are spiritual explorers. We're here, you know, on this ever-evolving spiritual path. So we want to understand this from a spiritual perspective, right? And in fact, the question in the ministers' discussion group, the exact question was asked, okay, so how do we affirm one power, one presence, God the good, when we are thinking of the actions of Putin? I think it's important for us to clarify it in our consciousness, right, first, and clarify it in our movement. First of all, I think there's a confusion in both our evolving understanding of God, because it is evolving. As we evolve, our understanding of God evolves. And also our understanding of the word good. So let's take both of these one at a time and do a little exploration here. First of all, the word good. The concept of good. When we're referencing God the good, is not to be equated with the term nice or pleasant or well-behaved. Rather, it speaks to this all-encompassing nature of God. The all-encompassing. So words that might be a little more accurate could be wholeness, completeness, infinite love. The quality without an opposite. It's that divine quality without an opposite. So just a different way of thinking about good, and maybe we should just change that word because it's so confusing for people. And it's confusing for us. And then the concept of God, right? The concept of God. Now, we know here in a unity community that we're not thinking of God as this anthropomorphic being in heaven somewhere to which we pray to intercede on our behalf, to intervene in the situation, in any situation. At least I think we agree on that. Of course, sometimes, I have to say, sometimes under extreme stress, we tend to kind of revert back to old ideas, and our prayers take on that feel sometimes, right? Paul Hasselbeck, right, our teacher that teaches here frequently and used to be the dean of spiritual education at Unity Institute, reminds us that God is principle. God is principle. So God is not powerful. God is the principle of power. God is not good. God is the principle of good. God is not loving. God is the principle of love. And we, as free-willed individual expressions of this one life, can use this principle in any way that we choose. And so Paul is simply reflecting Charles Fillmore, the founder of Unity, who said, "There is but one power. We use it as we will. If we send it out by our thought and word in hate, it destroys. But if we send it out in love, it builds. There are not two powers, but two ways of using one power." And so, since most people are unaware of their divinity, they're unaware that they're an expression of the one divine, they're unaware of their oneness with others, they're unaware of their power as a co-creator, they use the power, the principle, unconsciously, by default, right? Or out of fear. So when we think about somebody who is in a position of power, and I mean worldly power, who might be asleep to who and what they are, and asleep to oneness, and who may be living in fear that their power is taken away from them, that it might be taken away from them. They've become addicted to power. It defines them. Like, who am I without worldly power? And then they are cut off, and if they also are cut off from their compassion with others, they're going to use that power unwisely. They're going to use their power of power unwisely. And they're going to justify any and all actions to maintain their power, right? Including killing innocent people. So we can think of that. It's easier to think of that, I think, when we're thinking of Putin or other dictators or anybody who's caused enormous suffering in the world. I think it's easier to think about this. More difficult for me anyway, to think about this idea that omnipresent divine good, even if we think of it in terms of completeness and wholeness and infinite love, where that is in Ukraine with innocent people that were just living their lives. It's more difficult for me to get to that place. Whenever we see victims of horrendous acts, we're at a loss to understand very often. We're at a loss to understand how that can happen in a universe of love, in a friendly universe. But from our limited perspective, we can't see the whole cosmic picture in which this drama is playing out. We can't see it from our limited perspective. What we do know, that as long as we continue to be asleep to who and what we are, as long as we continue to be asleep to our oneness with others, as long as we continue to add our judgmental, fearful, hateful, angry thoughts into this collective unconscious, we will continue to see pain and suffering in the world and in our own communities. So, this week has been really cloudy. Have you noticed? Like today is the first sunny day, I think, all week. It's been really cloudy every day. Where is the sun? And so I thought of an allegory with that might explain this that I want to share with you. So imagine, if you will, that you're living in a time a long time ago, before airplanes, before even hot air balloons. And imagine that you're living in a place in the world that is constantly socked in with clouds, that is constantly cloudy. It's like you never see the sun. The clouds never part. It's eternally cloudy. In fact, you don't even know that there is a sun. Like, what sun? If nobody's ever seen it, what is it? Right? And you kind of adjust to living in a cloudy world. You probably carry an umbrella with you. You maybe wear a raincoat. You don't have to buy sunglasses because no sun. You don't need sunscreen. And then someone comes along and builds a flying machine. And they take off in that flying machine and they hit the cloud level. And of course, everybody on the ground is thinking, oh, well, he's disappeared. He's gone. But of course, he just pierces through that cloud layer and on top, above the clouds, and there is something he's never seen. Just glorious sun. And he comes back and he tells everybody that, up there, it's just magnificent, this glowing, gorgeous, radiant, white, yellow, warm, and everything is alive and vibrant. Well, how do you think everybody on the world is going to react? Woo-hoo, this guy's lost it. Cuckoo, right? They're not going to believe that. They've never seen it. They don't know. Of course, there probably are going to be some people who really want to believe it so much that they, maybe the cult starts, the sun follower cult. They make up all kinds of strange things about the sun, give it a personality. That would happen, right? But then other people go up in a flying machine. They too build a flying machine, and they fly up above the clouds. They pierce through that dense cloud layer, and they too see it. And they come back and they say, oh no, this guy's right. There is a sun. There is. He was telling the truth. And more people go up and say the same thing. So an idea grows. The idea catches on, and it begins to grow. And more people are piercing through that cloud layer so that eventually the clouds dissipate. And it reveals the sun. And now we're all living in a sunny, warm world. So, living in a world that is asleep and dreaming a dream of separation is like living in eternal cloud cover, not aware of the sun, not aware that there is sun. But affirmative prayer pierces through that dense cloud layer so that we can see the sun. It pierces through that dense collective consciousness and exposes the divine, exposes divine possibility, exposes white light, exposes the divine truth. That's what affirmative prayer does. So, when we're praying for world peace, we are not praying for divine intervention. That's an old idea of a Father God that we feel is going to come rescue us. What we're doing is we're using that innate power, that principle of peace, that principle of power, and we are piercing through that dense layer of the collective unconscious, exposing the truth, exposing the divine, exposing possibility, divine possibility, solutions, miracles. We're praying for people to realize they've been living in a cloud-covered world, but the sun is there. It just needs to be recognized, acknowledged, and revealed. And when enough of us come together, when people gather and come together, like we're doing today, and many other spiritual groups, if you're on, social media, there are groups, intention circles, there are prayer circles, there are meditation circles. All these groups are sending love and prayers to this situation. And when we do that, we're combining our consciousness, we're combining our hearts, and that energy of love just grows and grows. And with that enormous energy of love and our power as co-creators, we are definitely bursting through that cloud layer, and exposing the wholeness that is there, the love that is alive in that place, in this moment. Exposing divine possibility, creating a space for miracles to occur. That's what we're doing. We're creating a space for miracles to occur. And I'm seeing them. You? I'm hearing about some amazing things that are happening. Well, first of all, from the very start, the Ukrainian people, united, standing together, standing strong against the big bully. They are refusing to be devoured, right? And so, that indomitable spirit is so inspiring. It's inspiring. So all these other countries are coming together to support them. Yes, we want to support you in every possible way short of going to war. We want to support you. I'm hearing, Katja was telling me the other day that in Poland, there's a town in Poland where every single home, including the mayor's home, is opening their doors for refugees, families to come in and stay there. And this is just happening everywhere. There's so much compassion and a willingness to help them and to be of service, and we're just seeing more and more of that all the time. I'm seeing pictures of young people, who are sort of goth-looking young people, and they're taking the hand of a grandmother and, leading her to safety, and, making sure that that person is going to be okay. They're watching each other. I mean, I'm seeing miracles and the realization of this idea that is catching on in the collective consciousness of divine possibility, healing, miracles. So let's keep it up. And also with our collective intention to find the blessing in that situation, in any situation you face. The intention to find the blessing on the other side of that calls it forth. It calls forth the blessing. So it's not divine intervention. It's us owning our power as co-creators in prayer, creating a space for miracles to occur.